Okay, so um, imagine a typical summer day back in 2003.
Yeah.
Like the kind where it's hot, humid, and kids are everywhere just enjoying those long summer days.
Right. Yeah.
Now picture that day turning tragic.
Hmm.
A young girl heads to the park with some friends, something that happens all the time in her close-knit community,
Mm-hmm.
and she never returns home.
Oh, wow.
This is what happened to 13-year-old Becca Williams that summer in Omaha, Nebraska.
It's one of those cases that just it grabs you, it gripped the whole community, and for years investigators were really stumped.
Yeah, and today we're going to try to unpack the twists and turns of this cold case.
Right.
We're using firsthand accounts from Becca's mother, Shelley,
Right.
and also from the investigators who worked tirelessly on the case and refused to let it fade away.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about this case is the initial response to Becca's disappearance. When you listen to Shelley describe the agonizing, the lack of urgency she felt from the police, you can just hear the raw emotion in her voice.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the fear and uncertainty she must have felt in those early hours and days.
Right.
Especially, when you consider how proactive she was.
Yeah.
She organized community searches. She was just desperate to find her daughter.
Right. And during those searches, what's really heartbreaking is that she actually came within just a few feet of where Becca was eventually found.
It's such a chilling detail.
Yeah.
It's like this cruel irony at the heart of this case.
Yeah.
And the burden that she carried in those early weeks must have been unimaginable.
It really is.
So then, 2 weeks after Becca disappears,
Mm-hmm.
3 boys are out riding their bikes near the park,
Okay.
and they make a horrifying discovery.
Yeah, they stumbled upon Becca's remains.
Right.
And in that moment of shock and fear, they actually made a pact to keep it a secret.
Can you imagine the weight of that on those young boys?
It's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
They did end up doing the right thing. They told an adult.
Right.
But that delay, it undoubtedly made things more challenging for investigators.
And there were a lot of challenges in this case.
Yeah.
The condition of Becca's body made it virtually impossible to gather much forensic evidence.
Especially back then,
Right.
2003
Yeah.
DNA technology, it just wasn't anywhere near as advanced as what we have today.
So, with the forensic evidence limited, the investigation focused on people who knew Becca.
Yeah.
And soon, a 13-year-old boy, Matt T., who admitted to having a relationship with Becca, he became a prime suspect.
And this is where the case takes a really intriguing turn.
Okay.
So Matt T's relationship with Becca, which they described as a juvenile relationship, is all very secretive.
Right.
And there were rumors that Matt T had been aggressive. And investigators found some things that they thought might incriminate him.
Like what?
Well, they found a scab on his cheek, possibly from a struggle, and then some hair was found on Becca's clothing.
Right. But we know that circumstantial evidence can be misleading.
Absolutely.
It really raises the question of, how much did investigators rely on that evidence back in 2003?
Yeah, that's a really important question.
Yeah.
Especially back then.
Right.
Like we were saying, DNA analysis wasn't as reliable or readily available.
Mm-hmm.
So the investigation really had to rely on witness statements, physical evidence, and honestly, a bit of gut feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in an unprecedented move that showed just how serious this case was,
Mm-hmm.
the county actually convened a grand jury to review the evidence against Matt T.
Right, and this was huge.
Yeah.
This was the first grand jury in Nebraska in 25 years.
Wow. So what does that tell us?
Well, I think it really shows the immense pressure law enforcement was under to get some answers and bring justice for Becca.
Right.
And, despite the intense scrutiny of this grand jury, they decided not to indict Matt T.
So after months of focusing on Matt T., the investigation basically hit a dead end.
Right.
What happened next?
Well, the answer might surprise you.
Okay.
It actually lies with someone who was there from the very beginning.
Okay.
One of the boys who discovered Becca's body, one of the boys who found Becca's body, Matthew Kidder, he actually became a person of interest later on.
So I know Deputy Jennifer Tinsley had some concerns about Kidder from the beginning,
Right.
but they were kind of dismissed.
Yeah.
Why was she suspicious of him in the first place?
Well, it sounds like Deputy Tinsley she had this gut feeling about Kidder.
Mm-hmm.
Something about the way he described finding Becca's body, it didn't sit right with her.
Yeah.
But at the time, there wasn't any real evidence.
Right.
So she couldn't really pursue it further.
And then Years later, those instincts were tragically confirmed.
Right, right.
Crater was convicted of raping and strangling 2 women,
Yeah.
crimes that are eerily similar to what investigators believe happened to Becca.
The similarities they're pretty striking.
Right.
Both women were attacked and killed in a way that's very similar to how investigators believe Becca was murdered.
So it raises the question of, could Crater's involvement in Becca's case be even greater than anyone initially realized?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Deputy Dellis, one of the original investigators on Becca's case,
Yeah.
he decides to go visit Crater in prison.
Mm-hmm.
What was he hoping to get out of that?
Well, Dellis was hoping to kind of get inside Crater's head a bit,
Okay.
try to understand his personality, his motivations,
Yeah.
and maybe see if he, might be holding on to some guilt or knowledge about Becca's death.
It was a long shot.
Absolutely it was.
Sometimes those long shots pay off.
They do.
So what was Crater like in the interview?
Well, Dellis describes him as being very intelligent
Okay.
and even kind of charismatic in a way. He was surprisingly willing to talk, but there was definitely this sense that he was holding back, like he was choosing his words very carefully.
And then Crater dropped a bombshell.
He did?
He admitted to being the last person who saw Becca alive.
Right.
And he even described walking with her towards the wooded area where her body was found.
It was huge.
Wait, hold on. But initially he said he didn't even know Becca.
Right, exactly.
And now he's placed himself at the scene.
It's a massive inconsistency in his story.
It is.
And Dellis really pressed him on it.
Yeah.
Crater eventually admitted to knowing Becca.
Yeah.
But he just refused to say anything more about what happened after they went into the woods together.
And to make things even more strange, Crater said that he'd been having these recurring nightmares
Yeah.
about women in distress.
It's really creepy.
It is.
He couldn't say for sure if the woman in his dreams was Becca.
Right.
But these nightmares, they started right around the time that she disappeared.
It really makes you wonder, what was going on in his head?
Yeah.
What secrets was he keeping?
Right,
Was
exactly.
he trying to taunt investigators?
It's possible, you
Yeah.
know. Some criminals, they really crave that attention, even if it's negative attention.
Right.
But it's also possible that he was genuinely struggling,
Yeah.
that he just couldn't fully bury the memories of what he had done.
And then Dellis asks Crater a simple but very powerful question.
Right.
He asks him, "What do you remember most about Becca?"
Yeah, and Crater's response it's chilling.
What did he say?
He said very calmly, maybe her smile.
It's such a haunting statement,
It is.
Is it a real memory?
Yeah.
Is it a taunt? Or
Yeah.
is it some kind of twisted attempt at remorse?
It's really impossible to know for sure.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that Crater, he's not talking about the details of Becca's murder.
Right.
He's serving a life sentence for those other crimes. And unless he confesses, it's unclear if he'll ever be held accountable for Becca's death.
So where does that leave Shelley?
Right.
After all these years of believing that one person was responsible,
Mm-hmm.
she's now faced with this possibility that it was someone else entirely. It must have been just overwhelming for Shelley,
Yeah.
to meet with Deputy Dellis and learn that the focus had shifted to Crater,
Right.
to go from believing that one person was responsible and then suddenly having that completely upended.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It really is.
And it really speaks to Shelley's strength that
Yeah.
she was able to take in this new information,
Yeah.
even with all the mixed emotions that it brought up.
Yeah, she talks about wanting answers.
Right.
She wants justice for Becca.
Of course.
And there's still so much sadness there.
Yeah, after all these years,
Yeah.
it's understandable.
It is, but, even though the details are still unclear, the fact that Crater is in prison for these other horrible crimes,
Right.
there must be some small comfort in that for Shelley.
Yeah, I think so,
Yeah.
It's complicated, right?
Right.
But Shelley, she puts it so well.
Mm-hmm.
She says that, it might not be justice for Becca specifically,
Yeah.
but knowing that Crater can't hurt anyone else, that does bring her some comfort.
Right. And it really says a lot about her ability to forgive
Absolutely.
and to try to find peace in the midst of such a tragedy.
Exactly.
And that's where her poem comes in, the one she wrote about her children.
Right.
It's so powerful.
It is.
Filled with so much love and the belief that Becca is in a better place now.
Mm.
watching over her family.
You know, that poem, it's just a testament to a mother's enduring love
It really is.
and her ability to find meaning and hope
Yeah.
even in the darkest of times.
In Becca's case, it really underscores that enduring power of a mother's love. And it shows just how complex it can be to seek justice in a cold case.
Yeah.
It's been over 2 decades,
Mm-hmm.
and there are still so many unanswered questions.
Right. But the investigation, it continues.
It does.
And Becca's case, it also highlights how important persistence is, you know?
Yeah?
Following every lead, re-examining old assumptions. You know, Deputy Dellis, he didn't just let this case fade away. He kept looking for new information, new angles, and as a result, he may have uncovered a crucial piece of the puzzle.
It makes you wonder if there's something, maybe some seemingly insignificant detail from back then
Yeah.
that could unlock the truth.
Right.
What would it take to finally bring Becca's killer to justice?
Those are the questions that keep investigators going.
They do.
And you know, that's why it's so important for anyone with information about Becca's case to come forward. No matter how small it seems,
Yeah.
it could be that missing link.
Yeah.
So if you have any information, please contact the Douglas County Sheriff's Office.
Becca's story is a tragic reminder that even in places that seem safe and familiar, darkness can still find its way in.
Yeah,
But it also shows us the incredible strength of the human spirit,
it does.
the unwavering love of a mother,
Right.
and the importance of continuing to pursue justice,
Yeah, no matter how long it takes.
no matter how long it takes.
Becca's life was cut short, but her memory lives on through her mother's love, her community support, and the ongoing efforts to find the truth.
And if you found this deep dive into Becca's story as compelling as we did, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more captivating explorations of fascinating topics and real-life mysteries.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive.
Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those minds curious.